You're all ready now for the afternoon session, as in your afternoon. So we're going to now move on from here. So in the morning, we looked at products and services as well as pricing strategies. So we're going to look at the remaining P's across the this particular session, and then we'll take it from there. So I'm going to look at the next P. Just to give you a little bit of background on this, the next P that I want to talk to you about is promotion. Okay. But yesterday, I must admit that I can't quite recall who made a mention of it, but somebody said that communication is really important and it's an integral part of marketing. And I agreed. I said, yes. I think it was Badruddin, if I remember rightly, who was making that comment. And so what happened was when people were talking about promotion, they said promotion is really it's not really it's more about communication, and communication is critical from a marketing point of view. So what happened was, and I'm just going to open the chat box by the way right now, they decided to rename promotion and it became called marketing communication, or what some people call as MarCom for short. Okay? And then what happened was that people later on said, you know what, we're still not getting the full flavor of the meaning or what it's supposed to do. Okay? What then happened was people went in and called it IMC, where I stands for integrated marketing communications, where they said there are different elements in this process and they all work with each other. And so therefore, we just can't talk about them as being separated. We have to put them all together into a single unit. And that's how the whole concept of promotion has actually evolved. I'm not saying that we don't use the term promotion anymore. All I'm saying is that it's now evolved. Promotion has become, dare I say, a slightly older term. And today we talk more along the lines of IMC. So I hope that gives you a little bit of background. So just to let you be aware, I'm going to be looking at the concept of integrated marketing communications. So that's the term that we tend to use these days. We look at this particular P. Okay, so people promotion has now become IMC. It's a more popular term which is being used. So like I said, we're looking at the term integrated. So what we're saying is there are different elements which work with each other. So let's have a look at these different elements. And this is, therefore, we have this term called the marketing communication mix. And it's these elements which all work with each other. But there's a little bit of debate on this one, where some people say there are 4 elements, some people say there are 5. And then, in fact, in recent times, that's actually gone on. But let's start off with how it all began. So these are the elements that people usually talk about. Advertising, okay, which I'm sure all of you are generally familiar with. PR, or public relations. Direct marketing. Sales promotions. And personal selling. Now, I'm going to talk more about advertising and public relations during the course of the session. Sales promotions are straightforward. These are what we call as offers, sales offers, discounts, or what we call as bug off, buy one, get one free. Those kind of, all that is part of your sales promotions. Direct marketing is where I target customers and consumers individually, and I communicate with them individually. It could be through an email, it could be through a telephone call, it could be through maybe a letter in the post, but I'm looking at people individually and I'm targeting them and I'm communicating with them individually. That's called direct marketing. And then you have personal selling. Personal selling is where I meet somebody face to face. So I'm sitting with a person in the same room, across a table maybe, or across a lounge, for instance, and I'm trying to market them. And that's what's called as personal selling. Now, some people say, hold a second, isn't personal selling part of direct marketing? Because direct marketing is where I'm selling to an individual, isn't it? Well, personal selling is where I'm talking to a person face to face. So isn't that personally a subset of direct marketing? And technically speaking, yes, it is true. And this is why some people, some writers, some theorists, they do not talk about personal selling. They actually consider it as part of direct marketing, and so that's why they only focus on those 4. while some people take personal selling as a separate segment and they mention 5 elements. So again, just want to make a mention of that to you, that when you look at various books or journal articles, some might talk about 4, some might talk about 5, but essentially you find that the concept is the same overall. So hopefully that makes sense. So we say there's a process involved in promotion. Oops, sorry, a framework for promotion. And as you can see there on the screen, there are 6 different stages involved. Okay? And let's see as to how it actually works. The first one is studying your target market. Who is your target market? Who are the people you're focusing on? Yes, remember I used 2 terms. I said you've got the mass market and you've got the niche market. Yeah? So you can see you have to look at who is this target segment, and we'll be talking a bit more about this in fact tomorrow morning. So we need to keep this in mind. Then you also have to look at what is the extent of standardization. What do you mean by extent of standardization? What we're talking about here is that now when I'm marketing across to customers and I'm coming with a message, communicating a message, what I have to keep in mind is, do I keep the message standardized, as in the same message for everybody? Or do I need to customize the message? Because remember, in international business, we did make the point about language and culture and all that, isn't it? So in there, sometimes you need to maybe change it depending upon the local requirements. If you change it, then it's called customized. But if you don't change and keep the same message running across, then it's called standardized. So you need to work this out. Do you want a standardized message, or do you want to have a customized message put into place? Okay? Yes, in fact, I've got Mohammed making mention of the concept of localization. In a sense, yes, you have to work that out. Do you think that's absolutely necessary or not? Third step in the process, you can see there, determine the elements of the promotional mix, which is something just on the previous slide. So how much of advertising, how much of PR, how much of direct marketing you need or require, you're working on that. And the other thing you also would look at is, what is the message? What message do I need to convey? Okay? What would attract them? What message do people understand? What will they comprehend? And therefore, what will they react to in a positive way? The next stage is called selecting media. What media am I going to use to transmit the message? And we will be talking in a bit more detail very shortly, by the way, in terms of what is it we should be looking at. And the last one is establishing control mechanisms. I can't remember whether I spoke to you about this last time around, but does anybody remember what you mean by a control mechanism? Anybody in the room? Control mechanism? Come on, you can take a guess. Feel free. You don't lose any marks. Maybe how you pull the marketing funnel. No, not really. It's not that. Bubble system. Look at something less technical.
Are we talking about focus groups?
Sorry, Shaman, I didn't hear that.
Are you talking about focus groups?
No, not in focus groups. Okay. Remind me, how many of you ladies are married in the room? Sure, there are married women in this room. I remember the last time I asked this question, people raised their hands. Rebecca's the only person who's married. And the rest of you stopped being married. Is that what you're saying in the last few weeks? Okay, there's a few more. Okay, fine, fair enough. We do have a few people. I'm going to ask you ladies a personal question, by the way, if you don't mind. How many of you send your husbands to the grocery store for shopping for groceries? So please, I'll listen to the words carefully. You send your husbands. In other words, you're not accompanying him. You're sending him. Okay. Shamin says, I do. Okay. And oh, okay, the others also. Celestine, so on. Okay, that's fine. All right. Okay, now I can see the two Shamins right now. I got mixed up yesterday. Especially during lockdown. I don't know what that means. Okay, but anyway, no worries. You did previously, and then something happened, but I'm not too sure what. Now, those of you who do send your husbands out shopping for groceries, how many of you, when you send your husband out shopping, you give him a list? When I say you give him a list, you either write down the list on a piece of paper, or you text him a list on his phone, or you WhatsApp it, or whatever it is. How many of you tend to do that? Okay, list via what? List with pictures. Wow. Okay. I'm impressed with that, and I'm not sure how that works, but okay, fine. List pictures, sometimes in video call. Okay, I'm really curious right now. Sean, if you don't mind, can you say hi so I can see you, by the way? Sean?
Hi.
Oh, but I still can't see you.
Here, I'm here.
Oh, right, okay, fine, okay. Now I can see. Okay. Sean, out of curiosity, you said you give a list, you give pictures, and then you even video call. Why?
Video call to choose which to buy?
But you've already given the list, isn't it? And the pictures.
Sometimes too many brands. You need to choose which brand.
But can't your husband do that? I don't know, I'm just wondering.
Not for all items.
Not for all items. Okay. So I'm getting the impression you are the decision maker. Is that correct?
Only for grocery.
Okay, but I'm not sure what that means. Okay. Okay, fine. Oh, okay. Hema Vadana says, text him by WhatsApp, but he brought out a list. Okay. Emojis. Okay, I don't know what that means. And Gerald is not a married lady either. Okay. Now, what I'm trying to say is, I get the general idea. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming the reason why all of you do that, you give the list, you do the video calls, you do the WhatsApping, is because, correct me if I'm wrong, you're doing this because you do not want your husband to make mistakes. Is that correct? You don't want him. Jacob, you're nodding your head. Okay, I'm not too sure why, but anyway. But coming back, you see, I'm assuming you don't want your husband to make mistakes. You don't want him to buy the wrong products. Okay, and you definitely don't want him to buy stuff that he shouldn't be buying, isn't it? Okay, okay. Wow, a lot of you ladies are really smiling right now. Okay, fine, but fair enough. What I'm saying is, this is what we call as control mechanisms. Control mechanisms are put into place to ensure that nothing goes wrong. I hope that makes sense. Please don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're doing this to control your husband. I'm sure you're all lovely ladies who never want to control your husbands, you know? So you're not controlling, you're just ensuring that things happen appropriately. And that's what we're saying in a business framework also. You have control mechanisms to ensure that everything works according to plan. Made a plan, you made a strategy, and it follows that plan and strategy. Control mechanisms are also about saying if something goes wrong, you have a mechanism which ensures that you still stay on track. And that's why I'm assuming that people like Chung use those video calls. Okay, so they can see and say, yep, that's the right product. That's the one you should be buying, and not the other one. Don't you dare touch that. Don't you dare bring it, you know? Or something along those lines, you know? So that's generally what we're looking at over here. Set a KPI tracker. Key performance indicators, is that what it is? Okay. I'm assuming that's what it is. But can you see, that's what we're talking about over here in the entire framework at the end of the day. To establish control mechanisms. Continuing further, what are the challenges of marketing? What are the challenges that marketing professionals face when trying to market and trying to pass on messages and so on and so forth and communicate? So these are the things that we normally can talk about. Legal issues, you have to ensure that you follow the legal standards of the place where you are. Okay, the government might have set certain policies in place. They might have certain guidelines, and you have to follow that. Obviously, tax. I remember last time when I spoke about taxation to you, I got the impression that most of you don't like to pay tax. So here we're looking at the fact, how can we ensure that we don't make tax too much of a burden on ourselves? Mohammed has asked the question, in practical marketing senses, what are the control mechanisms used to use any tools? Basically, you find that you made a plan, okay, with respect to things like, say, advertising. So one of the first things that people look at would be budgets. Is it staying within the budgets? Is it staying within timelines? So you're giving yourself a time period of, say, 6 months. In 6 months, I need to build. So I use that timeline and I use the original plan that I've done, and all those milestones are in place to ensure that I keep putting them within that span of time. So it's really about following the blueprint and the budgetary constraints that you've placed for yourself. But you also have to ensure that you're measuring the reactions of the audiences. So again, it comes back to the whole concept of market research, feedback from viewers, feedback from the market space, feedback from customers in terms of what they feel about the messages that have been sent out. Are they actually getting the message, and so on and so forth? So there is a certain amount of quantitative and qualitative measurement that we need to look at and ensure that yes, it's following appropriately. Control mechanism, same as marketing strategic planning, well, technically speaking, it is part of your strategic planning. It is one of the processes within strategic planning that you're adopting. So you find that part of your planning is ensure that your plans go according to plan. And that's why control mechanisms are put into place to ensure that it does take place. So I hope that makes sense to you. I hope both of you, your responses have been responded to. But like I said, if you're not too sure, always do raise a question. Okay, that's fine. Thanks for that response. Moving on from there, language limitations. And I remember I did speak a bit about this the last time when I spoke about international business, where I said that language obviously plays a role. Okay? Language, obviously, we need to be aware, we need to be sensitive, especially when going overseas. What languages are we using? What meanings do the words actually convey, and so on and so forth? That's definitely part of it. Something tells me that I spoke to you last time about Nescafe, isn't it? Nescafe in China. Remember that? No? I thought Eastbury nodded her head. Okay, I thought you said yesterday. Okay, just Starbucks, is it? Okay, I can't remember the Starbucks example I gave you. I thought I said Nescafe instead. Okay, both of them are coffees. Well, Nescafe in China, okay, the example which comes to mind at the moment is this was late 70s, early 1980s when Nescafe first entered the country. And I don't know if you remember this, but I remember that very clearly because I was around at that point in time, in the 70s. I know a lot of you are much younger than me, so you probably might not remember this one. Nescafe had the slogan. The slogan was, "Come alive with Nescafe." Okay? And the idea was, the first cup of coffee in the morning, if you drink it, it makes you come alive. It wakes you up and gets you ready for the day. That's the message. Okay? Now, when they translated it into the local language, Mandarin and Cantonese, it did not quite come out that way. When you literally translated it, this is the way it sounded. Your spirits come back from the dead with Nescafe. That's how it sounded. Okay? So you can see, come alive with Nescafe, to your spirits come back from the dead. I'm sure you realize it has a different meaning, isn't it? I'm sure you realize that, So there's a bit like something like, what the hell? Is it like, can I take a cup of coffee, put it on my granddad's grave, the poor man is going to come back once again? So you can see, language obviously plays a role. Language does matter. You have to be careful of how you're wording your messages. In fact, the other example which usually comes to mind is Fiat, the Italian car company. They wanted to come up with a new model, and they called it Nova. But for those of you who are aware, Nova means new in Italian. And the idea was to tell people it's a new car. You wouldn't have seen a car like this anywhere else. It is very different from everything else, which is fine. It did well in Italy. Then they wanted to take it into Spain. The problem was in Spain, Spanish people read it as no va. No va means don't move. I'm sure you realize there's a problem. You really can't call a car don't move. So people refused to buy it in Spain. Nobody wanted to buy a car like that. So you see, language does matter at the end of the day. Language is very, very critical in terms of how you're going to communicate your messages. So you have to be aware of that. Taking it further, cultural diversity. I've spoken about culture to you the last time around, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore, but I'm sure you're very well aware of it as to how culture can be very challenging in personal marketing. Media limitations. Media doesn't work always in exactly the same manner in every location. In certain places, you find that a newspaper might be the best option. In certain places, it could be television. In certain other places, it could be social media. But you have to be able to try to work out as to which media is actually going to work well for you. And the last one is obviously costs. What are the costs of marketing, promotion, of communication? How much does it cost for you to actually do that? Sorry, remind me again. Who's the lady who said that her favorite ice cream is Haagen-Dazs? I can't remember right now. No? Christian, was it? Oh, sorry, okay. Well, just want to make a mention that Haagen-Dazs, in their last ad, which they created for television, by the way, it was a 60-second ad, and that ad cost them $300,000 just to create, just to produce. That's not cheap. I'm sure you understand. So you see, there are costs involved in producing these kind of messages. Then, of course, there's a cost to actually transmit that, isn't it, on television, depending on which channel and so on and so forth. So all these become part of the whole the cost issues that you need in mind. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So you have to be aware as to production cost limitations that could be on you. And this is why some businesses don't advertise on television at all, because they just say it's too expensive for them to actually go ahead and do that. So let's now push it a little further. Okay, advertising. Like I said, I'm going to talk to you a bit about advertising right now. And the reason as why we talk about advertising a bit more emphasis, because that's the largest form of communication in your promotional process. All of us have been hit by advertising, and we get hit by it every day. It's, as you can see, it's for a mass media, okay? And you find that there are some specific objectives that we're trying to achieve. One, building an awareness, something which we spoke about yesterday, so I'm sure you remember that. Two, creation of a dialogue. In other words, you want to create a level of interaction between yourself and the customer. Okay, so you want to get the customer to react to your message. Maybe the customer should give a call or visit the website or drop into the retail outlet, for instance, or something, or send an email maybe, but you're trying to get the customer to react to your message. The third objective is positioning your brand. You're creating a certain position in the minds of people. What are people going to think about you? What do they feel about you? What kind of a brand are you? How do they see you at the end of the day? It's that mental position that lies in the mind is what you're focusing on. And sometimes you're talking about repositioning. Repositioning is changing people's perceptions. Okay? So they've already had a position previously, now they're repositioning from a certain point of view. Fourth one, in trying to get people to think that you are better than the competition, and therefore preventing people from entering the market space. Okay? So that's what the objectives are as far as advertising is concerned. So hopefully that's straightforward and not too difficult. Right. I want to talk about the push and the pull strategies. And I found out over a period of time that it's easier for me to explain it to people rather than share a diagram and talk you through it. So that's what I'm going to do right now. In terms of, what do you mean by push strategy and what you mean by a pull strategy. Okay, so a push strategy. A push strategy is where a person goes to a retail outlet. Maybe they're not buying a particular product, but that product gets pushed onto them through promotional offers. Let's come back to my friends, the home theater guy and the lady with the handbags, the couple. One weekend I was staying with them and they went shopping for groceries. And they asked me if I would like to accompany them. I said, no, thank you. I'll just sit at home and watch television. And so they went out shopping. Remember, on the shopping list they had was they wanted to buy olive oil because they use olive oil for the cooking. But when they came back, instead of buying one tin, they bought 6 tins of olive oil. And I asked them, why did you buy so much of olive oil? And they said it was at a discounted price and we'd never seen olive oil at such a low price before. So we decided to grab it in case we never get this opportunity again. You see? That olive oil tins were pushed onto them by the discounted price. Pull strategy. Pull strategy is where you are pulled into a purchase point through an ad. An ad comes out that says, okay, there's something happening, or there's an offer taking place. And so because that you see the ad, you respond to it, you maybe go online to the website or you go to the store, for instance, to go check on it because you found the message interesting. I hope it makes sense to you. Okay? So that's what we mean by the push and the pull strategies. Okay? In fact, I'll tell you a little story, by the way, very, very quickly, in a couple of minutes. There was a colleague of mine in LSE, about 18 years ago, I think, right now. He decided to go ahead, who always told me that he never likes to buy from Marks and Spencer's. And the reason why he says he never buys from Marks and Spencer's is because he says it's too expensive. Which is fine. Some people do have that, that impression about Marks and Spencer's. So they don't have to buy from Marks and Spencer's. Fair enough. Now, what happened is that one day on a working day during lunch break, he went out for lunch and then he came back with this very, very large bag from Marks and Spencer's. I was like, okay, you're the guy who always says you never buy from Marks and Spencer's, but now you've actually gone to Marks and Spencer's during your lunch break on a working day and you've gone ahead and bought something big from them. Why? And then he said, I saw an ad in the newspaper which said there's a sale going on. You see? Pull strategy. They pulled him into the store. Okay, it's fine. I was like, okay, so what did you buy from them? Because it looks like you haven't bought something small. You didn't buy like a pair of socks, or a tie. It was a really large bag. He said he bought a suit. And I was, I'm sure you realize that a suit is usually one of the most expensive items in a clothing store. And I know that Marks and Spencer's, for instance, that usually a suit is about £100 on average. And the cheapest suit that I've seen Marks and Spencer's usually costs about £60, never less than that. So I asked him, how much does the suit in Marks and Spencer's cost? And then he said he bought it for £30. I was shocked. I was really shocked, So I was like, wow, can I see it? He said, oh, it's all packed up. It's put inside the bag. Can't take it out. I said, I'll unpack it. I'll see it. And I'll pack it back up for you. I'll do that for you. But I'm really keen because I want to know what suit you managed to buy for £30 from Marks and Spencer's. Finally, a lot of convincing, cajoling, I managed to get the suit out of the bag. Now, I know it's a little difficult to actually go ahead and, explain this to you. So I'm going to go ahead and try to show a little picture to you, which will show you what the suit looks like. Look at the suit and tell me what you think about it. Can you see there on the right-hand side of the screen? That checked suit, black and white? Any feedback on that, by the way, please? What do you think about that suit? Nice. F1 car race. Oh, look at funky. Okay.
By the eyes.
Eye paint. Check. Okay. Style. Too bad. Not a. It's true. Now, I immediately asked him a question. Where will you be able to wear the suit? When? Because you can't wear it to work. You can't wear it to a wedding. You definitely can't wear it to a funeral. You can't wear it on a formal occasion. You can wear it to a Halloween party. Okay, but where do you think you're going to be wearing this? Okay. And then he said, this suit cost me 30 pounds in Marks and Spencer's. I said, fine, you're sounding like a chorus in a song, but tell me, wait a second, is this your size? And he said, it's 2 sizes smaller. I said, why the hell would you buy a suit just 2 sizes smaller? He said, this suit cost me 30 pounds in Marks and Spencer's. So he thinking himself again, And then he said, I'm planning to lose weight. Anyway, the long and short of the story is, he was pushed into buying that suit, isn't it? I'm sure you understand that. 30 pounds suit. By the way, for your information, he never lost weight. He actually gained weight after that. So he never wore that suit. Just thought I'll share that with you, But anyway, that's where the concept of the push and the pull comes in. And Jivalata says sexy. God, I need to tell him that one. He thought that he would never look attractive in it, But there's some people, I'm sure, would find that very attractive. Fine, fair enough, cool. So let's now go back to the presentation. Right, so this is where we were, push strategies. Okay, let's look at some ads. Okay, when you're going to go ahead and put an ad, in print media, for instance, you have to look at some criteria. Look at the ad right now there on the screen. That's in USA, but it's a US newspaper. I have to look at the size, isn't it? How big is the ad? You can see the top, there are 3 columns. And then I measured on the side using centimeters. So column centimeter space. So how much of space is my ad taking? I also look at, for instance, where is it positioned on the page? And also things like which page is it on? Also, I need to look at the content. What are the pictures or text that I need to put into place? And how visible is it? So these are always some of the things you need to look at. Okay, another example. This time we're going to look at an example from the Metro, which is UK's largest circulating free newspaper. This is the front page, over there. And you can see at the bottom of the page, you've got what is called as a banner ad. The reason is because it's in the shape of a banner. Runs right across the length of the page. And so I find that a lot of people like those banners because it can catch your eye. Plus, in this particular ad, the Carphone Warehouse, you'll be able to see that its colors are involved. And colors obviously make it a bit more attractive at the end of the day. And these are some of the things we want to look at. And in the UK, one of the things we always say is, I don't have a newspaper right now on me, but usually what the point to make is that the front page and the last page are the ones which have got the highest tariffs. Okay? The highest charges for advertising come along these lines. Okay? And why? Because those are the 2 pages which got the maximum exposure. If you are sitting in a train or in the underground, for instance, and reading a newspaper, I'm sure you realize that you can't be reading it like this. And you're reading it like this, people can only see the front and the last pages, isn't it? That's what they'll be seeing. And that's why these get the maximum levels of exposure. That's why your tariffs are the highest over there. So that makes sense to you. Going on further, here's another example. You can see the page on the right has an ad for the post office. The page on the left has an ad for British Airways, Valentine's Day specials. Now you can see over here, again, it's about trying to make it give it as much exposure as possible. British Airways, massive heart, isn't it? Hopefully it catches people's eyes. That's what they're looking for. They want people to be able to see it, focus on it, and then get attracted to it, and then look at it. So that's something which also you find that no, you need to keep in mind because how am I going to make people's eyes focus on it? And then the last one I want to look at over here is look on the page on the left. That's Kronenberg beer. Page on the right is NatWest Bank. Again, it's about trying to see as to what we're looking at over here. And again, you can see it's about trying to use the words, the images, the shape, and the colors, and trying to make it look as attractive as possible. So customers will then notice it, sit up and take notice, and then go ahead and read whatever your message is. So hopefully this makes some sense out of here in terms of what is it actually saying. Right, so that's, I just want to now spend a bit of time on this slide. What are the main advertising decisions that we tend to make when we're looking at advertising? You can see it all starts off from this side over here, the objectives. What am I trying to achieve through my advertising? We already talked about objectives earlier on, so you have to set your objectives. And also, what kind of objectives you're looking at from the point of view of sales objectives. Second is budgets. You have to ensure that, like I said earlier, you need to use your budget as part of your control mechanism. And you want to ensure that it stays within your budgets. You have to ensure that, yes, it makes sense. Because this is like an investment. You spend a certain amount of money, hoping to get some gains from it. Next one is the message itself. What message am I going to put out in the market space? Will people be able to understand it, for instance? Will people gauge what I'm trying to say? For instance, let me ask you this question. Nike, what is the message that they're releasing out to their customers or to the market space? Anybody in the room, what are they saying? Nike's message?
Just do it.
Just do it? Okay, cool. What does that mean?
Don't think, just buy.
Sorry, Mo, I didn't get that. What did you say?
Do not think, just buy.
Don't think, just buy. You're saying just do it. So you're saying just buy without thinking. Okay, let's see. Just buy, just with no hesitation. Okay. Don't procrastinate. Well, I don't know. When I read it the first time around, it was obviously many years ago. The impression that I got was just do it with Nike. That's what I felt about it. It is like, with Nike, I can run faster, I can jump higher, I can jump longer. That was because Nikes are still in sports, isn't it? Okay. It's a bit like what Chui is saying, wear it and do whatever you want. That's the impression that I got. So hopefully, the point is now we're looking at messages getting across to customers, and hopefully customers pick up on those messages and then, take it forward. Tesco, every little bit helps. That's the message. They're trying to ensure that whatever you want from the grocery store is available, and it's available at a reasonable price. They're trying to help households to be able to run themselves. That, again, is the message that we're putting across. You see, it's about trying to see whether there is a message which people can comprehend, which people can relate to, and be able to take it forward. The other one is media. What media are we actually looking at over here? Jacob, are you okay? Jacob? Oh my God. Jacob, you all right?
Sorry?
Hi, Jacob?
Yes.
Oh, okay, sure. I'm a little worried there for a moment, Anyway. So then the next question is obviously, what is the media you're going to be using? And you have to think along these lines. What is the most appropriate media to go ahead and use? So let's look at some of the things. Okay, the reach. How many people can I reach? No, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the most widely circulated newspaper in the UK is The Sun. At its peak, I think it was going at about, say, nearly 4.5 million a day. Now it's just under 3 million. So we're looking at how many people are able to reach through this particular channel. Then you've got the frequency. How frequent is it? I'm sure you're all aware. If I'm coming up with a newspaper ad that lasts for 24 hours, I'm coming with a magazine or a journal ad maybe a week, or in some cases a month, looking for the frequency of the ad for the publication. And if it's obviously television, we're talking about maybe 30 seconds, isn't it? Not more than a minute. So you see, this is where the lifespan of the ad also becomes a bit of an issue. What is the impact? Am I reaching the right target audience? That becomes a question. For instance, when you talk about, okay, let's come back to the sun. Usually we find that luxury brands, people like Rolex, Omega watches, they don't advertise in the sun. Why? Because the readers of the sun are usually, dare I say, at the middle income levels and the lower income levels. Higher income people usually do not read the sun. So you find that, therefore, it doesn't matter about the reach. If the impact is lost, then it doesn't make sense. So you find that they tend to go and advertise in publications like the Financial Times, because that's what a lot of these, how do I say, higher income people tend to read that newspaper. Right? And so this is why I find that you have to look at what is the right publication that you need to advertise with. Also, what are the specific media types you want to look at? Electronic media, print media, physical media, and so on and so forth. That becomes very much part of it that you have to look at. So also need to assess what you think is going to be the most appropriate one for you. Also, kind of media vehicles that come along with it. And also how you time them, when you time them, how frequently you do it, and so on and so forth. For instance, in the UK, when you talk about television, we have this concept of primetime TV. Okay, now when we talk about primetime TV, it's usually by 9 o'clock. It ends. So the same at 9 p.m. And you want to ensure that you get the maximum coverage. So you try to align it with programs which have got the maximum viewership. Reality television shows like Strictly Come Dancing, Britain's Got Talent, X Factor. These are all where you got something like 6 million people or 7 million people all sitting in front of the television and watching that particular program. That makes a big difference. So you want to align yourself with that specific program. So that's the way you tend to work along those lines. Then, for instance, the other thing you're also looking at is how much is it going to cost you? Because very much part of it. That's where your control measures actually come in. But in fact, I still remember the most successful television series of all time is the series Friends. Remember when they were telecasting for 10 years until the year 2004, the tariff that they charged was much, much higher. Normally on primetime TV, for a 10-second ad, they would charge about £10,000 to sometimes as high as £50,000, which is a lot of money. That's not cheap. 10 seconds. But when we keep to Friends, for a 30-second ad, they were charging £1 million. That is a lot of money to advertise. But can you see, because they knew millions and millions of people would be sitting in front of that television and watching Friends, and so they could demand that kind of money. Okay? So can you see as to how those kind of systems actually work at the end of it, in terms of what actually happens. So I was trying to share the screen, and I lost the. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to sharing the screen now. Okay, that's where we were. Right. So what is the primary purpose of advertising? The primary purpose of advertising is very simple. There are three main purposes we usually tend to talk about: information, persuasion, and reminding. Information, yeah, we're talking about creating awareness. Persuasion is to convince. In fact, you used the word convincing yesterday when I asked you about as to what marketing is all about, And then the third one is reminding. Because sometimes you find that people might not necessarily be buying it, so you remind them, we do exist. We are around. My favorite example is actually Coca-Cola. You look at Coca-Cola, for instance. I don't drink Coke at all. I don't like fizzy drinks, period. But when I have people coming over to my house, there's a party or something like I always ensure there is Coca-Cola available because a lot of my friends do like Coca-Cola. So I always buy and keep it. And Coca-Cola's advertising reminds me that yes, you need to buy it when people come over. So if this makes sense to everybody, in terms of how the concept of advertising, it reminds us. Still taking it further. When I'm developing a strategy for advertising, there are two things that I principally focus on. One, I'm looking at creating advertising messages. And two, I need to focus on the media. So messages and media. These are the two underpinning issues when I look at advertising strategies. So that makes sense to everybody as far as advertising is concerned. And I'm going to now finish off with PR, public relations. PR is straightforward. It's how I create good relationships with the general public. And I try to ensure that people, think good about me. They have positive thoughts about me, okay? And especially I can create a good image of myself. So that's where I have certain activities in place, or certain strategies in place to ensure that actually happens. So that's where PR comes in. So we talk about PR. We are looking at what are we trying to do? I'm trying to create opinions. I'm trying to get people to have certain thoughts, certain perspectives about myself. And that's where, I'm trying to create the concept of image, which, as you can see in point number 3, is creating a certain profile which looks positive and which looks good and which looks very much part of the social fabric. I'm also trying to ensure that this can be used especially in a crisis. Last year, thanks to the pandemic, a lot of businesses really suffered. And you find that in a crisis situation, this is where you find that your PR systems can actually work to a certain extent, where you can hopefully people will still think of you favorably, people will still consider you as an option for a business provider and still stick with you as a customer. So you tend to find that your PR can actually help further businesses along these lines in a non-explicit manner. So taking this further, what are the functions of a PR department? What does a PR department normally tend to do? In very broad terms, we say they have relationships with the press. So having good relationships with the reporters, people who are writing, for instance, for journals, magazines, and newspapers, and so on and so forth. We're also looking at publicity for products. And I think, one of the examples always comes to mind is Steve Jobs. He did a great job of that. He called people in, have this big auditorium, and then talk to people about the new product that's going to be released by Apple that particular year, and how it's going to change their lives, and how it's going to be very beneficial to all of them. He really gave it good publicity. And so that's one thing which you can see over here. Public affairs. Business getting involved in the affairs of the public. Let me give you an example on this one. HSBC, that's the bank that I bank with. I've been with them for 19 years now. And before that, they were they had some bank called the Midland Bank, which became part of the HSBC group later on. So in total, I've been with them now for 25 years. That's a long time. But anyway, one of the reasons why I like being at HSBC because I believe HSBC is a good bank and who are socially responsible. They have this policy in place. The policy is every year, for 6 months in the year, 200 employees of the bank will not come into work. Okay? Instead, they will be working with the Metropolitan Police force. Now, what is it they're doing? They tramp the streets of the city. Not catching criminals, no. They're there to help the general public. Check to see if people need any assistance. Is somebody unwell on the street? Is somebody homeless, for instance, and needs some assistance? Is there somebody who's lost and looking for directions? Can you help? It's more along those lines. In other words, HSBC is donating 200 people, X number of people hours per day across a 6-month period of time to help the general public overall. And I feel really good about that, and I feel really good about the fact that, that they actually go ahead and get involved in the public affairs. I've got one asking about the drug cartel. I have no idea about the drug cartel, to be honest. If HSBC was involved, that's the first time I'm hearing about it. I'm not sure if it's even in the UK. But if they were actually found out that they were doing it intentionally, obviously that would have had serious repercussions at the overall. US fined them, so that's probably a USA, but definitely not in the UK. I'm talking about something which is very London specific, by the way. So that they actually go ahead and, like I said, 200 employees out on the streets trying to help the general public. That's something which I think is appreciable overall. So that's where the public affairs actually comes in. Lobbying, trying to influence people, trying to influence dare I say, certain circles, trying to ensure, that, in other words, it's about trying to ensure that things go in your favor. It's like, lobbying with government, for instance, or lobbying with a certain public sector agencies, so on and so forth, and trying to ensure that, any policies that they make are in line with what your organization is doing, rather than going against the grain of what you're doing. That's where lobbying actually comes in. Oh, sorry. It's strange. I don't know why that. Investor relations. Lobby is not bribery. No. That's why I use the word influencing. Bribery is very different. It could be. It's really about having a good relationship, and then trying to explain to somebody. So, this is why we think this is important. This is required. This is necessary, and them being able to show them and being able to tell them as to why this is therefore something which will benefit not just yourself as an organization, but also the general public overall and the business environment, from a certain point of view. So it really boils down to contacts. It really boils down to networking. So that's really critical at the end of the day. Then you've got relations with investors, and like I said, development of your networks, development of your connections. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of this saying, isn't it? What matters is not what you know, but who you know. And I do strongly believe in that. I find that networking is very, very useful. It actually helps you get things done. Dare I say, sometimes in a quicker manner, in an easier manner. So it is important to develop these kind of networks and relationships and put them into place. So therefore, what are the tools that are used by the PR department to ensure that all of these get done? Find that, generally speaking, we already spoke about the news. You try to get yourself appearing in the news. Maybe some press, reporters, mentioning some nice that you've done, or some positive news about yourself as a business, and so on and so forth. Speeches. A lot of people sometimes are invited to various forums to give a speech, symposiums, conferences, even something like, say, a graduation ceremony of a university. And during the speeches, they try to project themselves in a positive way. And that's when these speeches can be very useful. Special events. Okay, sometimes you find that you can actually create events. Like it could be a musical event, or a sporting event, for instance, which you can actually get involved with, can be part of, or create, which people can relate with respect to you. And they connect the two of you together. And so therefore you find that becomes a tool by itself. Written materials like brochures, pamphlets, leaflets, for instance, which you pass around. Audio visuals like films. These are becoming very popular these days thanks to social media, where people are now posting this on places like WhatsApp, Facebook, websites, and so on and so forth. Corporate identity materials, stationery items, clothes, accessories with your brand name emblazoned on it, written on it with your logo, for instance, and people can relate to that, identify it, and then they, it reminds them of it, when they go ahead and use it. And that's again something which you find generally just happen. I've already made a mention of public service activities through public affairs. That's all right. Sponsorship. Okay. Sponsorship is sponsoring events. Where you go and ensure. It's a bit like when I said earlier about events. At the end of the day, you find that in some cases you connect to yourself with them, but also when you sponsor them and you get your name tagged along with it, it creates a certain image in the minds of people. Like say, for instance, the football Premier League, Barclays is the main sponsor, the bank, and you find that therefore everybody puts as Barclays Premier League and so on and so forth, and it appears on television. So you can actually all these come to people's minds, Buzz marketing. Okay, this is an interesting one. Buzz marketing is where you create a buzz, you create a hype, and it's not you directly creating that buzz or hype, but it's somebody else doing it on behalf of you, and then they go ahead and then and that gets projected. I was actually looking at this at some cases earlier on. There is this guy, a YouTuber. I forgot his name. I must admit that. Who took a little film of himself traveling on Emirates Airlines in a first-class cabin. And he got hundreds of thousands of hits. Now, if you look at that short clip, at no point in time does he say, fly on Emirates Airlines. At no point in time does he say, go travel first class. No, he doesn't. He just shares his experiences. Okay? And because he shares the experience, him eating his meal, his drinking his alcohol, his sleeping on the bed, him taking a shower at 43,000 feet in the air, people are like, wow, that's amazing, I want to do that too. Next time I'll try to see if I can go on Emirates. Can you see? He's creating a hype on it. That's what's called as buzz marketing. Okay? I'm going to write something in the chat box, by the way. We've got something called viral marketing. And viral marketing is where you get people to talk about it and pass on the information. So it spreads like a virus. It sounds terrible in the pandemic situation, but we get the general idea. So you want people to talk about this and pass on the message to other people. Okay? So it's like an ad which could surprise people or shock people. And then people saying that, therefore tell her, did you see that? Did you see what happened in that ad? Isn't that a little odd? You're getting people to pass on the message. That's why it's called viral marketing. Influencer marketing. Well, influencer marketing is more along the line of what happens in buzz marketing, with influencers to pass on the message. In fact, I know Adidas tends to do that. They actually have got some influencers to talk about their products, their shoes, their equipment, so that people who are following those influencers will see what they're saying, and therefore a buzz gets created at the end of the day. Okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Right, so that's, so I said buzz marketing is viral. Oh yes, somebody asked the question earlier on, but right now who it was. Just going back in the chat box, somebody did I think it was Badruddin, isn't it? Badruddin, what was the question that you posed earlier on? You're asking a question about marketing?
Yeah, I said like shedding light on guerrilla marketing tactics.
Guerrilla marketing. Okay, yep, sorry, that's I couldn't remember for a brief moment in time.
Thank you.
Guerrilla marketing. Now, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the word guerrillas. Guerrillas are people who tend to attack people unexpectedly, isn't it? People don't anticipate it. People don't expect it to happen, and yet it happens. And that's what happened in guerrilla marketing also. It's about how to say, appearing unexpectedly in places where you don't expect it to happen. I'll tell you what, just to explain that, if you could give me a minute, I'm going to try to pull out some examples which I've got, which I actually shared with some people earlier on during the course of the week. So it shouldn't take very long for me to pull it out. Okay, yeah, I've got it right now. And I'm going to share it with you on this up on the screen. These are from like undergraduate students, by the way. Hopefully, you'll be able to see this particular. Okay. Can you all see that picture of that pedestrian crossing? Look what McDonald's has done, isn't it? It technically it is a crossing, but they made it look like a pack of French fries. So you're walking on French fries. So people, as they're walking, they will notice McDonald's. You know, can you see? They don't expect it to be there, but it's there. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an example, you know, of guerrilla market. But I'm going to take it further right now. Just give me a second. Okay, here's some examples that I really love. Look at that one at the bottom. It's a manhole cover, but they've painted it to look like a barbecue with a little spatula there. Look what it says. You need a new barbecue? Call us at this number. So as you're passing by that, you get to see it. But my favorite one, look at the next one. That's a multi-story building with a car park, and they've got an ad for a paint, isn't it? And look what they've done. They're showing us the paint has spilled down the building and into the car park. So when you look at it, holy smoke, has all that paint been spilled? But no, it's not. They've just made it look that way, but it makes you sit up and notice, isn't it? The paint that's over there. I hope you get the general message, you know. And the other one that I really like, I'm going to show that to the next one. There we go, the Kit Kat one. Look at that. The guy seems like he's sitting on a Kit Kat bar, but he's not. He's sitting on a bench. You know. So again, you can see these are all techniques of guerrilla marketing, appearing in places that people would not anticipate, and getting people to sit up and notice. And yes, the word is also well. Ambushing is different. Ambushing. Okay, first one is guerrilla marketing. So guerrilla, I hope you get the general idea. Appearing in places that you don't anticipate, surprising people. Daniel has used the word ambush. Ambush is usually used to describe where you piggyback on somebody else's marketing campaign. Okay, your rival, your competitor has put an ad, and you are coming up with a different ad, you know, to counter that. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, give me another minute while I actually go ahead and try to pull an example of that out for you. The only problem is that I have to do a little bit of searching, but I'm sure it shouldn't be too difficult. So give me 30 seconds on that one. Okay, I've found it. So I'm just going to share that screen with you. Okay, it's just going to come up right now. Okay, can all of you see that and tell me what's happening? Come on, I'm sure you can tell me.
Well, the score is BMW, but the message is for Audi.
Yeah, see, Audi was advertising itself as winning the South African Car of the Year. They were advertising this in South Africa, you know. But BMW was, yeah, in a sense, mocking them, as Hafizul says, by saying, hold on a second, yeah, you won, congratulations, that's fine, but we won the World Car of the Year award. Can you see? They're ambushing their success, and they're advertising. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Okay, that's what's called as ambush marketing. Okay, so you find that some of these do tend to happen at the end of the day. It's about obviously ways of trying to get this message across and so on and so forth. You know. So coming back to where we left off, in terms of we were looking at the PR tools. So that's buzz marketing, viral marketing, ambushing marketing and guerrilla marketing that I've spoken to you about. Websites, okay, are also very important PR tools these days. In fact, these days, our very first point of contact for business is usually going online, isn't it? And checking the website out and seeing as to what they're saying. We visit it, look at it completely, and we find that this therefore tends to be the most, so the first point of contact for most businesses these days, and we tend to approach along these lines. Ahmed is raising a question: was it legal? Was anything wrong in what they said? No, it wasn't. You know, whatever they said was completely truthful. So as long as there's no lie, there's no falsehood involved, and it is legal. Okay. In fact, there are certain advertising rules and laws which are in place which prevent false advertising. And there's a term which I'm going to write down in your chat box. It's called puffery, which means exaggeration or lying in your advertising. As long as it doesn't do that, then you're okay. I've got Said raised hand. Said, you raised your hand. What is that about?
Yeah, I was asking about the legalities in marketing, right?
So I think I've responded to that then. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like, you want to compare, use them because I've seen some of these advertisements. They don't really use the competitor names in their advertisements, and some of them even blur out the brand name of the
True.
competitors. So, like, I mean, is it something to do with the reach or local laws, or is
That's
it
correct.
something?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I said, in the UK, you can do competitive advertising as long as you justify your facts and figures, and as long as you give the sources of your facts and figures, then you can apply competitive advertising. Otherwise, you just can't compare without backing your statements up. So some companies tend to do that. They tend to, as you said, blur things out or try to minimize the impact of visual images and so on and so forth.
I think the most common one is detergent that I've seen.
Oh yes, yeah, that's true. That's probably me versus some other brand. The other brand we can only make it out because of a color or something like that. It's true. That is quite common. Any other by the way, any other questions from anybody else in terms of what I've said to this point of promotion?
Yes, I got a question.
Yes,
What
Rebecca, go ahead.
What about those negative news that have impact on the product or brand?
What do you mean?
A negative news. For example, recently, pandemic. So there's one nasal spray that they say our government released a press regarding the spray cannot kill a virus. But when people saw the ads from government, people still go and buy. So it's actually a positive impact, but it's actually saying it cannot kill viruses. So all these also fall into this public relation.
Sorry, Rebecca. The last bit, it broke up there for me. I didn't quite catch the last bit that you said. What was the last question that you asked?
So all this, the press that released from the government is also a public relation.
It is, yes. Well, yeah, it is meant to do that. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So you find that people are releasing these messages for the purpose of trying to convince them about certain issues, and sometimes you find the messages might not necessarily always be positive. Sometimes they can come up with a negative message, but like I said, as long as they back up what you say, that's fine. So which means from the other point of view, what are the business trying to do? They're trying to counter that negative message, isn't it?
Yes.
And they might want to come up with another message that says like, yeah, maybe we don't kill 100%, but
Yes.
we do kill maybe 99.9. So you see, it's about trying to see how best you can get the message across and how best you can actually do it. So in fact, there's some businesses over here, what they do is they actually show little film clips, like getting people in the film, giving them a little product, and then showing, see how well it works on them. So they're trying to counter along these lines. Yep, maybe somebody said it doesn't work, but look at this, it actually works for these people. So these are some of the things right now people are actually doing to try to counter the negative publicity which might come out through other sources, for instance. So a lot of this is happening at the moment.
Thank you.
No worries. Noor, you raised your hand. Is there something you wanted to say?
Sorry, sir. I have a question.
Yep.
Okay. Just now you advertise for the ambush advertisement, right? Can we do that? It's not violation.
No, it's not. Like I said, did Audi win the 2006 Car of the Award? Yes, they did. Did
But they're
BMW
using
win
the
well,
BMW car.
yeah, that's right. Because they're saying that we are congratulating you.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. BMW is saying that we are congratulating you, so they're using their own car. How many of you have seen that ad about the former chief executive of Mercedes-Benz leaving the company? Have any of you seen that ad? No?
No, haven't.
Okay, that's what's gone viral recently. Okay, Habib has said he's seen it. This is his last day. He's been working there for 17 years. Okay, and BMW is releasing this little film. Okay, saying, thanks for being such a great competitor. And they show him leaving the company. His last day, he says goodbye to everybody. He gets into this Mercedes-Benz S-Class. He's dropped off at home. He says bye to the driver. And then at the end, it comes up, finally, I can do this. And what he does is out of his garage, he comes out driving a BMW car. What can you say? Okay, but at the end, the guy, the ad says, "Thank you for being a good competitor." It was brilliant. It was a brilliant a film which actually came out. So have a look at it. I'm sure you'll be able to look at it somewhere on social media or something along those lines. But yeah, nothing wrong with it. They never said that Mercedes-Benz is bad. They never said it's a poor. Nothing. They just said thank you. So it was a very interesting ad. Any other questions from anybody else? Hold on a second. Somebody else. Is network marketing a PR tool? It can be depending upon the content. See, for instance, if you're using networking for the purpose of selling, then it's not PR. But if you're networking for the purpose of developing relationships and connections, then it becomes a PR tool. Any other questions from anybody else? No? Okay, I'm now looking at the clock right now. And I can see that we've gone. It's 3:15. I'm trying to calculate the because what I got over here. Is that correct? It's 3:15, right? No, normally I usually do a 10-minute break. I still want a 10-minute break, or do you want a shorter break? Because we did go slightly over. Sometimes we can't control these things. What do you want? 10 minutes of 10. Okay, so we'll have a 10-minute break till 3:25. We'll come back at 3:25, and then we'll finish off the piece of marketing. So see you soon. going to physically come to me? How is it going to actually get to where I am? I remember yesterday somebody was talking about, thanks to the pandemic, people do a lot of online orders. Obviously, you want to ensure that your orders not only come on time, that it comes safely, isn't it? It comes well packaged, well packed rather, safely, safe and secure. And there's nothing wrong with the contents, for instance. So all these become part of the elements that we do keep in mind when we're talking about this. So three basic areas of concern: time, place, and position is something that we do look at. Let's look at the intermediaries, the people who connect the customer to the business. Like I said, your wholesalers, retailers, distributors. What are the activities that they are involved with? What are the activities that they tend to perform? So let's have a quick look at that in terms of how it actually works. First one is information. I'm sure a lot of you will agree with me on this one. You need information when you're buying a particular product, when you're picking up something for yourself. Maybe, for instance, you like to look at things like saying, where was it made? When was it made? If you're buying food, for instance, you might ask questions like, what ingredients were used to make it? How long will it last for instance? Obviously, things like, the pricing and so on and so forth. If you're buying food again, how much does it weigh? All this information is required as a customer. But hold on a second. That's not the only piece of information they're looking at, isn't it? The businesses also need information. The businesses need information about the customers. For instance, I'm looking at people on the screen right now, and I can see Ezekiel on the screen at the moment. The business wants to know, who is Ezekiel? What is he like? What are his tastes? What are his preferences? How much is he willing to pay for these products? You see, so it works in both directions. You as a customer wanting information from the business about the product, and the business wanting information about you as a customer. I hope that makes sense. So that's where you find the distributors are working along the lines in terms of the provision of the information. Second point is about managing relationships with customers. Yesterday we spoke about this. We spoke about customer relationships. So you want to manage the relationships. You want to ensure that it works well. You want to ensure, for instance, I can see people like Ganesh on the screen. You want to ensure that people like Ganesh, the relationship that you have with them keeps growing. It keeps getting better and better. That it doesn't flag, and you want to ensure that you as a business are therefore able to satisfy, Ganesh in terms of what it is that he's looking for and what kind of products or services that he's requiring. The third one is trying to provide customers with a reasonable variety of products. I hope that makes sense to you. Can I assume that when you go shopping to buy something, you would like some variety, you'd like some choices when you want to buy something? Is that a reasonable assumption? Just imagine if you went to a store and you wanted to buy a shirt for yourself, and they have only one shirt on display. So it's like, if you want a shirt, you buy the shirt. You can't buy anything else. I don't think a lot of us would be very thrilled about that. We would want to see a selection and an assortment. I should be able to pick and choose what I would like to buy and then wear later on. So that you're trying to facilitate that particular process. Promotion. Okay, so I think this is obvious. Remember we were talking about the push and the pull strategies. So the businesses actually go, the intermediaries either push the products onto you or pull the customers in through various activities, through various ways of promoting themselves and the products that they're actually offering. I'd like to use a little example, by the way. I've asked you whether you like chocolates. I've asked you whether you like ice creams. Now I'm going to ask a slightly different question. How many of you like eating donuts? Okay. Gerald, you're saying that donuts are your favorite. Is that right? So what is your favorite donut? I'm not too sure what you're saying. Which is your favorite donut? Joe? But is there a specific brand that you like? Okay, Rena likes Dunkin' Donuts. Cool. I'm not that big a fan of Dunkin' Donuts. And Joel also is. And Ahmed says Krispy Kreme. But the Krispy Kreme is with the K and not a C. But Krispy Kreme is my favorite. Vinish also says that's his favorite. That's fantastic. Okay, brilliant. In fact, earlier on, until a couple of years ago, there used to be a Krispy Kreme outlet in Empire Mall, the food court at the basement. So whenever I used to come over to KL, to deliver my weekend sessions, I used to go down to the Krispy Kreme outlet and grab a few donuts from over there. Okay. Now, obviously, don't have that opportunity at the moment. But anyway, I want to talk about Krispy Kreme. I love Krispy Kreme, by the way. But Gerald says, one donut a week. Eat a high sugar. He says as a child, oh, that's a great one. Yeah, I know a lot of people who do like that. Want to be a cop, so can eat donuts and coffee and donuts. That's a combo. But yeah, I can relate to what Gerald is saying because I love Krispy Kreme donuts, but I don't buy them very frequently. Because I'm careful because they are quite high on sugar and calories, and I'm sort of like, I don't want to do this, isn't it? Especially now. I mean, it's sort of like in between Christmas and Easter, isn't it? And after you finish Christmas, you sort of like say, we need to be a little careful right now, isn't it? Don't want to eat too many. We've been loading up a lot during the Christmas season, for a whole month. So now the problem is this. I've got two hypermarkets near my place. I've got Tesco and I've got Sainsbury's. I've also got two supermarkets near my place. One is Morrison, the other is Asda. So I tend to go to hypermarkets because they're bigger. I got more variety. And both of them have got Krispy Kreme counters. Now that's not the problem. You know what the biggest problem is? The Krispy Kreme counters are right at the entrance. So as soon as you walk in, if you like it or not, the smell, the aroma hits you. You can smell that soft, fluffy, melt in your mouth, donuts, loaded with sugar and chocolate inside of it. And you can actually smell the cream oozing out from the middle. And because of the aroma, you turn your head around and you start looking at the donuts. And those donuts start calling out, AW, AW, come to me.
I feel sorry for you.
You feel sorry for me. Heck, I feel sorry for myself, Like him. So they're calling out my name, and they're saying, come by. And next thing I know, my feet are dragging my whole body towards the Krispy Kreme counter. And my mind is telling me, only 2 donuts. Only 2 donuts. And my mouth is opening up and saying, I want only 2 dozen donuts. So give me 2 dozen donuts. So can you see that the disconnect between my mind and my mouth at that particular point in time? And what do you see where I'm coming from on this one? It's a conspiracy, isn't it? Tesco and Sainsbury's are working with Krispy Kreme to attract customers. If they had put the Krispy Kreme counter at the very end of the store, in the other corner, near the vegetable section, I would never go there. But instead, no, it is right at the doorway. You see, this is how they're promoting, this is how they're pushing it onto you, isn't it? Okay? You can see as how things are actually working overall. So these people are sort of like, dare I say, working with each other, to try to ensure that customers will pick up the products. So they're promoting it from a certain point of view. Going on further, what else do the intermediaries actually do? Pricing. The intermediaries decide on the prices. They also set things like, say, price reductions, price bundles, price offers to make things more attractive to the customers at the end of the day. All this is part of it. And obviously the distribution itself actually goes across physically to the customer. So looking at things like warehousing, storage, inventory, communications, displays, and so on and so forth. All that becomes part of this whole process. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody because what is it actually saying? Going on further. Remember I told you this is all about supply chain. We're all aware. SCM, supply chain management, you can see there at the top of the screen. So what are the tasks in the supply chain that you have to manage? Not very difficult, I'm sure all of you would be aware of this. You have to plan ahead. You have to plan ahead and see like how much do I need with respect to this? Okay? How much do I need to have in the store, for instance? For instance, I can see Noor on the screen. If Noor is going to come to my store on a Sunday, how much would she require? How much would she need to buy? I need to work it all that out. I can see Celestina making mention of the word logistics. Yes, I have to look at the logistics of all of that. Sourcing, where am I going to get my products from? In fact, at the moment, and I'm sure some of you might be aware of this, there is this little movement in the UK. The movement is buy British products, buy homegrown products. So your meats, your food products, for instance, get the ones which are locally produced, because we want to support British farmers rather than supporting somebody who's overseas. I hope you get the general idea. So the sourcing obviously becomes really important at the end of the day. We're trying to work out where I need to get my products from. Then we've got the delivery part of it. I need to ensure that it gets delivered to my customer on time. Like I said, ensure that they don't have to wait, because waiting obviously is not going to really help you. So you try to make the delivery as smooth and as easy as possible. And like I said you need to have relationships in place. You need to ensure that there are good relationships with your customers. My next door neighbor is, by the way, there's a couple. Both of them are in the business of food. In other words, chefing. Okay, one used to be an executive chef, the husband. Used to work for corporates, people like Morgan Stanley and big businesses like that, including the Wimbledon tennis tournament. And the wife is used to be a cake creator. Used to bake birthday cakes for celebrities, people like Tom Cruise, for instance. So now she's in the catering business, by the way. Well, so both of them are obviously very much into food, and they've told me that they always buy from a specific farm in Surrey, and they deliver the produce to their doorstep. But they've obviously established a relationship with them, because I'm assuming that the products are really good, quality is fine. That's the reason why they keep going back again and again. It's really about trying to keep this in mind. How best can we ensure that these relationships do continue, that we ensure the relationships are in place? So that's about the tasks in supply chain management. So how does the marketing channel work? I think this is very straightforward. You can see that there are different variations. I can sell directly to customers, usually this is done online, or I can sell them through retailers, or I can sell them through wholesalers and retailers, or in some cases I might need other people also involved, especially when I'm going to a different country, for instance. If I'm going to a different country, I might have an importer, I might have an exporter, I might have an agent, I might have a broker, sometimes I might have a government a representative involved in certain countries. You see, therefore there are different parties involved, different groups of people involved in the whole process of distribution. So depending upon where you're going into or how it's going to work out, you might need to have different people involved in your marketing channel. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope that's not too complicated to actually, comprehend, in this particular situation. So moving on from there, one key element that I need to look at is what is the intensity of market coverage? In other words, the level of coverage that we got. How much of coverage do I want to have? Generally, we say there are 3 levels that we focus on. The 3 levels of coverage are intensive distribution. In other words, I try to make the product available in as many places as possible. Okay? So I could have them in Like Coca-Cola, in fact, is my favorite example. You can Coca-Cola just about anywhere, isn't it? Your grocery stores, your supermarkets, your hypermarkets. I can get them at gas stations. I can get them in restaurants, hotels, educational institutions. Buy it online. I can just anywhere I'm looking for. I can find in almost any possible store. You know, it's generally around. So that's why it's called intensive distribution. Then we have what is called a selective distribution. I distribute them only in a few places. Electronics products, computing products. You can't find it everywhere. Find them only in certain places. I can't buy a television in any store. I find them available only in certain stores, certain distributors. So that's why that becomes selective distribution. And then you've got what's called exclusive distribution, where I find available only maybe in a single place. A favorite example of this is a car. It's true. You don't find like multiple Toyota distributors within a single location. Usually one single distributor is out over there. That's why it's called exclusive in nature. So this is what you're looking at. These are the choices that people have in terms of determining how much of distribution you are actually looking for. You're looking for intensive, you're looking for selective, or you're looking for exclusive. Now, which therefore leads me to the next point. How do I decide what channels that I should be using? What channels should I employ for the purpose of distributing to my customers? And broadly speaking, we say there are 4 areas that we consider, or 4 criteria. The first one is what we just now saw in the previous slide, the level of distribution. Okay, do I want an exclusive, intensive, or selective point? Look at the second one. It says degree of control. How much of control do I want in my channel of distribution or in my marketing channel? I've got a question, by the way. In which form or intensity of distribution can you have the maximum control? In other words, do you have maximum control in intensive, selective, or exclusive? What do you think? Okay, Rebecca is asking the question. Everybody else seems to be saying exclusive. Well, Celestina is saying, giving us 2 responses. Okay, it is actually exclusive, yes. And the reason why is because you only have to focus on one channel of distribution, isn't it? You don't have to focus on any others. So therefore means you can therefore maintain a higher degree of control over there. And in intensive, you have the least level of control. Because there's too many distribution channels out of there. You really can't keep an eye on every one of them. So this is what we look at over here, is that you need to work out how much control you want. And if you want a certain amount of control, you might have to look at either selective or exclusive. But if you're not too bothered with control, then you might still go ahead with intensive. Point 3, the distribution costs. How much is it costing for you to distribute across to your customers? And the 4th one is flexibility of channel. I'm sure you realize that channels have evolved. Channels have changed across the years. And so therefore you find that what you need to find is, do you have channels which can be flexible, which can change, and it's willing to change? You don't want a rigid channel. You don't want a channel which is fixed. Because if it's fixed, it becomes very difficult for you to make any changes if in case the situation arises. I hope that makes sense. So these are some of the things that, these are the 4 factors that we consider when we're talking about what channel should I choose. Right, now pushing it further. Broadly, we break down the whole concept of distribution into 2 categories. Sorry, just realized something. Okay, can you just give me 15 seconds? I'm running low on my battery. I'm just going to switch on the power, and we'll get back to you in a few seconds. Just give me a second. Okay, so now everything is fine. The batteries are up and running. It's cool. So fine. We broadly break down, the concept of distribution into two categories. We look at store retailing, and we've got non-store retailing. I'm sure it is just fairly straightforward. Store retailing is where you're going to a store and you're buying. Very simple. Non-store is obviously not in the store. So let's have a quick look and see, what are the various options that we have in store retailing first. We say there are three options in all. They're on the screen. First one, mass merchandisers. These are like your supermarkets and your hypermarkets. They give you a very large variety of different products. And you find that you can therefore go ahead and decide whom you're buying from on the basis of choices and on the basis of prices. Okay, and we tend to buy from these people, in a fair amount, isn't it? Because we love, like I said, choices at the end of the day. We don't want to be restricted to a small number. So a lot of our products are bought from mass merchandisers. Then we have something called specialty stores. Specialty stores are businesses which focus on a specific category of products. Okay? So they're specialist stores from a certain point of view. I'm going to actually give you a very specific example right now. I told you, isn't it, that I got a new home theater system? Remember I said that a little while ago? No? I did. I'm sure of that. I shared with you just a little while ago. Yeah. Okay, so there is this store where I usually buy from. And I'm going to write it down in the chat box, and you can actually check it out later on. It's called Richer Sounds. Richer because the guy who started the business, his name is Julian Richer. And Sounds because when he started the business, it was about producing audio products. Sorry, selling audio products. Selling audio products. But now it's expanded. It's now become audio-visual products. Entering the audio-visual products, very good place to go and buy from. Sells televisions, home theater systems, DVD players, receivers, amplifiers, loudspeakers, cables, the works. It's a really, really good place to go to. And so I love going there, speaking to the salesperson, seeing what the options are. They give me a lot of advice. I check it out, test it, and then I go ahead and pick it up. So, Richer Sound. You can see they only specialize in AV products. Okay, they do not sell anything else. Okay? That's and I like AV products. I must admit that, and so that's the reason why I'm using them as an example at the moment. They've got a chain of 53 stores across the UK. That's why I thought I would share it with you. And there's one branch about a 10-minute walk from the campus here in London. So that's where I usually go and buy it. Then we got what is called as convenience stores. These are the small shops, usually at the end of the street, what we call as the corner shops. In the olden days, they used to call them the tuck shops. And the only reason why you buy from them is because they're conveniently located. They're very easy to access. You can sort of like go in a walking distance, for instance, and go and pick up whatever you require. It's a bit like, let's say my cousin who I haven't met for a while suddenly drops in. Well, Sainsbury and Tesco, if you look at it, remember I just talked about these hypermarkets. That would not come under the convenience stores. But they have what is called as the Sainsbury Local. That is what we call as the convenience store because it's a smaller store, smaller variety of products, and it's usually, not too far away from where you live. And in fact, I do have a Sainsbury Local 2 streets away from where I live. And if I'm in an emergency, for instance, I usually tend to go there. So like I said, let's say my cousin drops in from Sunderland and without warning, and I got nothing in my fridge, which can happen, then I usually run across to Sainsbury, grab some milk, eggs, bread, my basic essentials, at least to feed the guy, isn't it, and then put it in place. And so that's one of the points that we make the convenience stores. So it's usually we tend to do it under certain circumstances. and I buy the bulk of my products from the mass merchandisers. So I hope that's straightforward. Okay, and now moving on from there to non-store retailing. This has obviously become quite popular in recent times. I mean, it has been around for a while. I must admit that. No? But like I said, recent times we've become to depend on it slightly more. And like I said, it has also evolved. Some of the things no longer are in vogue. For instance, catalogs. I remember at one point we used to have physical catalogs mailed to us, posted to us. We used to pop to the doorway and we used to read those catalogs, pick up products, and then order for them through by sending them to the post. But now catalogs have all gone online, isn't it? You don't need physical catalogs anymore. I can go online to the website and I got the entire catalog over there. So you see, that has evolved. Direct sales again has evolved. I remember there was a point in time where people used to knock on our doors and say, I've got some homemade cookies for you. Would you be interested in them? But now, thanks to issues like security and privacy and so on and so forth, people are not too keen on that. In fact, these days, you actually see little signs outside doors which say, salespersons, please do not knock. You know? You see, they've changed. So people are now focusing more on email. You know, that's really where direct sales are taking place. So that's evolved too. So direct mail, which earlier used to be your post, no longer holds as good as it used to be. Now it's more along the lines of, you know, social media, isn't it? Well, let's talk about email. Then we'll talk about social media later on. This is more along the lines of, they directly contact you, because I still sometimes get posts from people like Tesco's, for instance. Then we got television home shopping channels which exclusively market and sell products. I must admit that I've never used them myself, but I believe that a lot of people do it. In fact, I think in 2018, was it, or 19, I can't remember, television channels sold £8 billion worth of products. So obviously there's a lot of people who are buying it, who are watching these channels and doing the orders, you know. So that's obviously something that you can see. Vending machines. I'm sure all of you know about vending machines. I'm sure a lot of you use them. You know? Out of curiosity, I'm sure I made a mention of this, isn't it? When I was talking about international business, did I mention Coca-Cola to you and vending machines? Yes, okay, fine. Coca-Cola, yep, they were the first company to look at vending machines, you know, to get them across to the customers. Well, Coca-Cola was the first one when Pepsi will come later on. Coca-Cola was, in fact, I think it came out in the 1920s, if I remember right. You know, so nearly a century ago. They installed them in gas stations. Okay? And we're trying to get people, as they're filling up the car, to also fill up themselves using Coca-Cola. You know, that was the idea. But obviously, vending machines have also evolved, isn't it? You know? When I was a child, it used to be canned drinks, cold drinks, you know. Then it became hot drinks, coffees, teas, and hot chocolates. And then it became food, snacks initially, chocolates, cookies, crisps. Then you got other foods like sandwiches, noodles, and so on and so forth, you know, wraps. And then it became non-food items. So when I started traveling, I got things like, you know, I'd go to hotels and there I'd find, you know, vending machines which dispense things like toiletries. Forgotten your toothbrush? Vending machine gives it out for you. Dental products, your shower gels, soaps, and so on. I remember one vending machine, well, not more than one actually, who used to dispense clothes. You forgot your shirt, no problem. Shirts available in the vending machine. Trousers, shoes, socks, underwear, swimming trunks, bikinis, all from the vending machine. You know? And then these days we've got tech products, isn't it? Chargers, you know, mobile phones, all range of different things from that. But my earliest memory was when I was a child, magazines and books, the airports. Go to board the flight, grab a newspaper or a book, you know, from the vending machine, and then you can read it on the flight. The other day I found something which I thought was mildly interesting. I went to this hotel and I found this vending machine. Condoms. In case you forgot it for some reason, then go to the vending machine and grab a pack. So you can see vending machines are constantly changing and evolving in terms of the service provision at the end of the day. Okay? And of course, the last point that I want to actually share with you in terms of non-storytelling is e-commerce and m-commerce. Now, I know all of you know what e-commerce is, isn't it? You're all younger than me. You're all more tech savvy than I am. You know more about technology than I do. So I'm sure all of you know about e-commerce at the end of the day. In Japan, vending machines offer things you can't imagine. Well, obviously, I'm unable to imagine anything at this stage in time. It's still early in the day for me, but hopefully one day I'll make it across to Japan and see what you're talking about, But I can sort of try and guess. Coming back to e-commerce. What is e-commerce, by the way? Anybody in the room? Thank you.
Commerce.
Yeah, what is... Sorry?
Commerce on the net.
No, what does E stand for?
Electronic.
That's right. Okay. And yep, you're right. It is about buying and selling online, more shopping online, really, I think that's reasonably straightforward. And like I said, all of you, I'm sure, to that. Any of you would like to give some examples of things that you buy online, by the way?
Lazada, Shopee.
Amazon.
What do you buy is what I was asking.
Shoes, clothes.
Okay, I got books, clothes. Okay, fine, fair enough. Diapers. Okay, I don't use diapers, so I can't buy them. It's fine. The MBA, well, you didn't quite buy it online. If things go back to normalcy, you might be seeing me in class. I don't see me anymore. But anyway, groceries, masks, and so on. Fair enough. So that's all reasonably okay. I do like the point that somebody just made about, where was this? Gerald, gold coins. Okay, I'm not very keen on gold coins, but I find it really interesting. It's actually coming up to vending machines anyway. But anyway, so a lot of things are sold online. And then if you remember, the second term that was used was m-commerce. What does M stand for? Okay, I got Sarishna saying mobile commerce. True. And she's actually made a particular point out of there. We're talking about shopping via your mobile gadgets, your phones. I always mention this to people. Whenever I open my phone these days, which I'm doing at the moment right now, it's asking for a password. Something's a little annoying. And when I open it up, I look at things, for instance, and I see things like my mobile phone operator. I can see YouTube. I can see Emirates Airlines. I can see both my banks. I can see Uber. I can see Grab, by the way. I think I downloaded this when I came to Southeast Asia. It's still there on my phone, by the way. I've also got eBay. I've got Booking.com. I've got Netflix, Prime Video. A whole lot of stuff out over here. I'm able to do all of this using this device, and that's what a lot of people are doing these days, isn't it? Because it's sometimes a little inconvenient to find a PC or a laptop, go online and do it. Bang, I just did it right now. I should, in 3 seconds, I was able to get into my phone and start, working on it, and there are certain things, which we tend to focus on, So, in fact, things like money transfers from my bank to other accounts, all this, I get it done in less than a minute, thanks to my mobile phone. So this is the way we're moving forward, isn't it, from a certain perspective, the direction that we're actually moving in, using more and more technology from the point of view of how it's going to contribute to us accessing products and services. So that's reasonably straightforward. Are there any questions that anybody has at this stage in time? Any doubts, any clarifications that people have? It says no. Very clear. Right. Nobody wants to ask me any questions. Not to show why. So if nobody's asking me questions, I'm going to ask you a question. Okay? So I'll just slightly reverse the roles a bit. Before the break, we spoke about promotion. We spoke about advertising. So I want to share with you some ads, okay, which have appeared in print media. And I'd like you to tell me, what do you think about them? It's a very simple exercise. It's going to take literally a few minutes at the end of the day, and then we'll take it from there. I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen. Please feel free to say whatever you want about these ads, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, that's the first ad. As you can see, it's Braun shavers for men. And look at the first image, says 8 a.m. The second image says 8:05 a.m. At the bottom of the screen, it says brings out the human in men. Any comments on this, please? No comments from anybody? Promoting the shaving machine. Yep, and you're saying it's creative. Yep, it's about the speed, isn't it? Okay, they're focusing on that, and they're also looking at, they're trying to make it as interesting as possible. The image is making you look at it, isn't it? I mean, what's that baboon doing there in that ad? So they're trying to go and attract people's attention. Okay, so that's the first one. Let's go to the next one. The next one, if you remember right, is Pepsi. Okay, Pepsi Twist, which in other words, lemon flavored Pepsi. So have a look and tell me what you think about it. Okay, people are saying it's funny, and Satya says E. I'm not too sure what that means at the end of the day. Yeah? But yeah, it is a lemon peeing into a Pepsi. Now, you realize, isn't it? In certain places and with certain people, that might not be very appropriate, isn't it? People think, my God, why not? It's peeing into a drink, and do I have to drink that drink? But Pepsi is doing that on purpose, isn't it? They're doing it intentionally. They want to make you sit up and notice that. So you see, sometimes you find that certain ads, okay, I like what this fellow actually says, cheeky, that's a reasonably reasonable comment about it. They're trying to push the boundaries to a certain. Look at the wall behind. It does look a toilet, isn't it? So it's actually as if it's been shot in a toilet. They're trying to create a certain ambience over here. Let's now look at the next one. Raid, that happens to be an insect repellent. Any comments on this one? Exactly. It's so strong that it actually kills, Spider-Man, the superhero. Okay? And so that's the message that's actually coming across. So it's not about earlier we talked about the speed at which it shaves. We're talking about how powerful this one is. The next one, if I remember right, is Burger King. I'm not going to say anything. So have a look and tell me what you think about it. It's not McDonald's, that is Burger King. Yep, Ronald is there, isn't it? They're alluding to Ronald. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, it says, it just tastes better. Even Ronald can't resist, you're right. Okay? Actually, I might have, but look at the being very careful, isn't it? I remember somebody was asking earlier about the legality of these things. If they had shown Ronald McDonald's face, if they showed Ronald McDonald wearing that full uniform, the clothes, McDonald's could have sued Burger King. But right now, that could be anybody, isn't it? You see? It could be anybody at the end of the day. It doesn't have to, because all we can see is red hair and the shoes. So you see, Burger King is being very careful about how they're projecting it. Okay? Because they know if they shoot the front of the clown with the full image of Ronald McDonald, they will be in deep trouble. McDonald's will be on their hides quicker than you can say California, You see, this is, so they're actually alluding to it at the end of the day. Right, and so these are some ads that I just wanted to share with you. Hold on a second, there's one more. Oh yeah, look at this BMW ad. Tell me what you think of this. Wen says, oh my God. Well, B, they're not saying better than sex. They're saying better than a lady. That's the emphasis. The ultimate attraction is the car, not the lady. Okay, so I'm not too sure. Yeah, as Dinesh says, the car over the woman, you know. One is desire, the other is passion. Okay, Habib, you're getting a little too technical for me, so I'm going to ignore that one. I'm not too sure. But I hope you get the general idea. You know, you see how that they're projecting, you know, these images, how they're projecting the messages and so on and so forth. So I hope this makes sense to everybody, you know, in terms of what you can see over here is this, isn't it? If you look at these ads, they're all trying to give a little sense of humor there, isn't it? They're trying to inject a sense of humor. Why? Because we are being hit by ads so many times in a day, right? And so they want to make the ads memorable. They want people like Amelia to remember and recall the ads. Otherwise, they'll get lost in the crowd, isn't it? So this is why they're using humor to try to reach out to people. And generally, let's admit it, people do like humor. Okay? So this is what they're there's also an interesting thing. Look at it. These ads didn't have much of a description, isn't it? Hardly any words. They're wanting you to get the message from the images. And this is one of the recent trends that we can see in advertising at the moment globally. If you look at ads in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, and so on, where advertising first matured, there's a huge description. This is what the soap can do for you. This is how the vacuum cleaner works, and so on and so forth. But now you find that people don't quite do that these days. Okay, it's more about trying to get people to look at, dare I say, a message which lies behind the visual image and get them to understand it for themselves. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody in terms of what I want to share with you. Any other comments from anybody or any other statements you want to ask about the ads that we just now saw? Anybody? Just want to make a comment on Yi's post about Patek Philippe. That's an interesting one. It rings a bell. I'm sure I've seen it somewhere because it sounds familiar. But yeah, that's a very interesting message, by the way, at the end of the day. I don't know how many of you checked it out. Patek Philippe's message out over there. He has put it up in the chat box. No one wants to say anything? You sure? Fair enough. I get the impression you all want to go out, have a good time, Saturday evening. Maybe you got plans. You got friends you want to catch up with, spouses you want to ignore, television to watch, you know, those kind of things. I can completely relate to all of that, you know. My neighbors tend to do all of these things at various points in time, you know. But that's fine, fair enough, you know. So do enjoy your Saturday evening or whatever else you got planned for yourselves. Do make the most of it. But very importantly, please do stay safe. Look out yourselves, and if you're with your families, also ensure that your families are safe too, you know. So we'll see each other tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. your time, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Just to remind people, there are two halves. There's the morning half and the afternoon half. The morning half will be completing the topics which are there for the module, and the afternoon half is exclusively reserved for the assessment. So in case you do have access to the assessment, do read upon it. If you've got any questions, you can always post them to me tomorrow, and hopefully we should be able to sort of address them. Okay? So do take care, everybody. Catch you later on. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
sir.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.